All right then, so good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our weekly business meeting. Excuse me, today's Tuesday, August 25th, 2020. The time is 2:03 p.m. And I am officially calling this meeting to order, attending Commissioners Duncan, Brooks, and Filios. And I'm going to ask Kathy, since she's a short timer now, to lead us in the pledge. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. So before we move on to our action items, let's just go through the consent calendar first, please.
Sure. I move that we approve the consent calendar as listed on our business meeting agenda for August 25th, 2020.
I second the motion. Aye.
Aye.
Aye, and the motion is carried. Payables list, please.
I move that we approve the payables for the week of August 17th through 21st, 2020 in the amount of $655,064.47.
I second the motion. Aye.
Aye.
Aye, and the motion is carried. Do we have any changes to the agenda?
Not official, just moving number 8 to the end and moving number 17 to the front.
Okay. So did everybody get that? Item 8 to the end, item 17, which is the NAS study contribution, moves to item number 1. And so before I get on that, what I'd like to do is introduce a few of our guests. Joining us by phone is Dan McCracken, who's the Regional Director for the Department of Environmental Quality, DEQ. Speaking, I guess you might say, on behalf of the state. Also joining him, Jamie Bruner, who is the Lake Management Plan Supervisor, if you will. Also joining us from the Coeur d'Alene Tribe, Terrell Stevenson and Phil Sinera. And also Jake Geringer. Where's Jake? All the way in the back from the Governor's Office. And so I guess I will lead it off. The reason for their presence here, everyone, is in the event there are questions of a technical nature or the purpose of the study or whatever, that they can opine so that this way we can make a reasoned decision here. So essentially, I had brought this up when we were going through the budget process, and last week we took it up again and asked that it be on the agenda for a formal vote. What I am asking for is a contribution by the county taken from the, I guess you might say, the construction budget, which is the $5 million in fund balance. So there's going to be no new taxation for this, for $200,000 toward the study, which is due to commence October 1st at $755,000. The state is already committed to it. I guess they are working with, and somebody can correct me here, DEQ for a contribution from them as well. And one of the reasons, and the primary reason that I'm advocating for this, is that when the results of the study are made known and we get to a potential implementation, I would like for us to have a seat at the table and be able to say that, yes, we are concerned, we're interested, we have skin in the game, and we've never really contributed in the past. And so if my co-commissioners, Leslie, Bill, if you have any questions, now's the time.
I don't have a question, I just have a thought, but you can.
Well, I have a lot of questions, but number one, my understanding is that this is going to be on what they call in science an archival study. Is that correct?
Jamie, did you want to respond to that?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Go right ahead, Jamie.
What was the question?
Bill's question was that his understanding of the study is that it is an archival study.
Right, so it's not a new study. It will be looking at existing information. That is correct.
So data that already exists.
Yes.
Okay. Phil, did you want to? No, she's correct. Okay. All right. Go ahead, Bill.
So just for everybody's clarification, there's going to be no water samples taken, no mud samples taken, no holes drilled, or otherwise physical collection of additional evidence. Is that correct?
I see Phil. Phil, are you nodding yes to that? Yeah, why don't you get up to a mic in this way, make it a lot easier for you, Case?
Yes, Commissioner, as it stands now, my understanding is the phase one of the study, which you're contemplating funding, does not have any sampling going on. It would be all data that's already been collected. They will, however, or part of the long-term understanding is them to be able to suggest to us all what additional studies might be necessary.
Jamie or Dan, did you want to jump in? Phil, you can stay here if you like.
Yeah, this is Dan. I agree with everything there that Philip just said. That's correct.
Okay. Any other questions?
I want to know what buying us a seat at the table means.
What's buying us a seat at the table means?
Yeah.
I'm going to give you my take, and then I'll ask the others to jump in. Okay, so at the conclusion of the study, there'll be recommendations that are made, and those recommendations will translate into an implementation of some sort. Possibly none if there's nothing to be done. When we get to the implementation phase, I want for the county to be part of that, to be able to say, yes, we'll agree to this, or no, we won't. And that's the way, that is the approach that I'm taking. Does anyone else wish to opine here? Phil, makes sense to you?
Well, Commissioners, what I would suggest is the NAS study is supposed to be a strictly neutral third-party review of the information. The last study that they did that started in 2001, that ended in a book about this thick in 2005, really didn't provide anybody a seat at the table. They provided their report, and then, for the most part, it sat on the shelf. So it doesn't bind anybody to do anything, and whether or not providing financial assistance to get this study done gives you any sort of more seat at the table, I don't know, because you've got these scientists that are going to be cloistered in their offices. They probably will be contacting the tribe and the state to deal with our experts, just to understand the information, but that doesn't provide us an additional kind of oomph or a seat at the table.
Right.
They're supposed to be neutral and not be driven by anything but the science.
Sure. And do you believe, because I sit on the Basin Commission with you, do you believe that the Basin Commission will be involved in the recommendations and implementation when it comes forth from the study?
I think two parts. Understand that this is supposed to be a phased thing. So phase one, which will answer a couple questions, will lead into potentially another phase, which quite frankly, the other phase is the phase that I believe will be what can be done, what are the technologies, what are the costing options that are currently not going to be found in the report from this phase one stuff. But I would hope, and I'm going to advocate, that we on that Basin Commission are very much involved in looking at the results and hopefully having strong dialogue on, what do we do now? Do we move into phase two? Do we know enough? How's the lake doing, and where do we want to go from that point on?
Okay, so the data that's going to be made available to NAS is data that exists today. Who assembled that data? Is it largely the tribe?
It's a compilation of the tribe and the state. I mean, data has been collected way back when? We're talking the 60s. USGS has compiled a lot through the 70s into the early 90s. The tribe has compiled a lot of information from 91 on. The state and the tribe have been working 8 years together, lockstep, in collecting this critical data as part of the lake management plan that led to the red flags that our lake's water quality was declining. So it's a compilation of data from across the board.
Okay, thank you. Jamie, Dan, did you want to opine here? Nothing?
This is Dan.
Yeah, go right ahead.
I think on the in terms of the question of the data, that I would agree with everything that Philip said there as well. That it's primarily most of the data, I would say, would be a combination of the state and tribe, but lots of other, USGS, EPA data is also available from prior to the lake management plan.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I forgot, EPA.
EPA, that's
But for
correct.
the most part, they haven't done a lot of study specific to the lake. They've done an awful lot of evaluation and data collecting up above the lake.
I'm sorry, Leslie, go ahead.
Oh, no, did you have more questions, Bill?
Yeah, I have one other point of clarification. I'm sorry. I was very worried about Lake Coeur d'Alene being declared a Superfund state or area.
Site.
And you know what? I found out today from somebody who should know that it already is.
It has been since the 1982 when it was listed on the
Okay.
national priorities list.
And I think people should understand that, because there's a lot of fear out there that in the future, we might become designated a Superfund site.
We
The
are.
train's out of the station.
And it has been, and it's been a very interesting dialogue over 30 years. I mean, we all understand back in the early days, it was like really a concern to the public about EPA doing anything in the entire basin. Then they started doing their work in the little 21 square mile box, but the facility, the Superfund facility, is anywhere hazardous substances have come to be located, which includes the lake. The lake, EPA currently has just deferred doing a cleanup on the lake pending the effective implementation of a lake management plan. That's why I believe we're all here today, because the water quality information under the lake management plan monitoring that we've done shows a decline in water quality. So we raised a red flag, the tribe, hey, this lake management plan isn't doing its job, so something else has to happen. Now, whether that means EPA needs to come back into town and start saying, we deferred a decision on the lake, but they have the prerogative, and if the local county commissioners and the state and the tribe all agreed that it was appropriate, we could bring them into town and have dialogue on what they could provide financially, staff-wise or otherwise, to be involved in this. And I quite frankly think we shouldn't be afraid of this moniker of Superfund. Look, the Silver Valley is doing really well. We've heard from the mayors up in that area that they're not afraid of Superfund. It's actually been financially beneficial, and it's cleaned up a lot of problems up there. So they're now moving downstream from Cataldo to Harrison. The question then begs, so what happens with the lake ultimately? So it is indeed, Mr. Brooks.
I certainly wouldn't put it on our tourist information.
Well, no.
Come visit
Absolutely.
Lake Coeur d'Alene or Superfund.
And nobody's ever done that, and tourism flourishes in the heart of a Superfund site.
Okay.
So it's
So
messaging.
this is, and I have
Yeah,
just one thing to kind of add, and this is part of the context, I think, for why we are where we are.
Yeah, go right ahead, Dan.
When the fund site was originally expanded to the broader basin outside of the Bunker Hill box in the early 2000s, one of the state's conditions on the selected remedy was heavily focused on what action was selected or not selected for the lake, in large part from response to public sentiment and comments and from Kootenai County residents and so that's how we landed on the lake management plan is that although the hazardous substances at the bottom, by default make it part of the site, there is no selected remedy because we essentially, as the state essentially requested it not to be included in the selected remedy and that we would manage it outside of Superfund in cooperation with the tribe through the lake management plan. And so part of the reason that we're going through this process now of the NAS study is kind of the dominoes falling from what we have shown so far through the lake management plan. And we're now seeking additional funding for additional scientific support on that. Another branch on this could have been, 20 years ago, managing it through Superfund, and this type of scientific work would be done, through an RIFS process. And I think the tribe's been very open about, suggesting that maybe that's how this should be handled anyway. And I think, I guess the state's position has been largely shaped by the public input we received 20 years ago, to continue to manage it outside of Superfund. And so for us to, I guess, kind of change that, I think it's fair to continue to put our fingers on the pulse of what public opinion is, but I think, Commissioner Brooks, as you brought up, there is a lot of public concern about, if you continue to go down the Superfund route, what that does for, kind of just the image and economy and all those other kinds of things. So we have not really rehashed that, and kind of, I guess not the intent of the NAS study necessarily to rehash that. It's from the context of continuing to manage it outside of Superfund.
Fair enough. Bill, you had another question?
Yeah, I have one last question. I was a tribal administrator up in Alaska. And what I don't understand, and what a lot of people don't understand, is why the tribe pulled out of the lake management plan. Since this is going to be on our YouTube, this is the time for a good explanation of that, and I don't have one.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a very good question, and thank you. We have gone through the lake management plan. First of all, in 1996, there was a lake management plan. I helped write the darn thing. It was basically business as usual, no actions, no dollars brought to bear. It sat on the shelf. It did nothing. It died on the vine. This new lake management plan, as you all know, came out of the fact that EPA and the state did not want the lake in the Superfund remedy. It was deferred. Okay, we're going to write another lake management plan. When we sat down at the table to write a new lake management plan, we wanted funding, we wanted commitment, we wanted some sort of regulatory authority. We wanted something more than the 96 plan because that didn't work. Well, after 5, 6, 7 years of back and forth with the state, the tribe, once again, as a good neighbor, said, you know what? The state is not coming along and agreeing that funding is going to be required or we're not adopting this. Regulations are going to need to be looked at or we're not adopting that. We were at an impasse. So rather than the tribe just putting their foot down and saying absolutely no, we tried to be a good neighbor again. And we said, okay, build it and they will come. So we wrote it, we shopped it around, we pledged $5 million right off the bat and said EPA put up money, state put up money. Nobody responded to that. We've spent $5 million since then on the lake management plan. We've collected all this information and we have not seen the regulatory structure that's currently in place and the best management practices and the voluntary approach to be working. We have far more pressure on our lake these days. This is not 30 years ago. We have so many people coming into this area. We have so much land disturbance. So we see the vast amounts of land activities going on that are producing nutrients, that are creating the problems with the metals mobilization. We understand a lot more about the lake right now, Commissioner Brooks, and we said to ourselves at one point, okay, state and EPA, the trigger values in our lake plan have been exceeded. Those were the values set to sort of be the bar in which to decide whether or not this is being successful. It's not being successful. So we reached out to EPA and the state and said, what are we all going to do? What are we going to do? A year went by, not a single response. We then sent a critique, a 9-page critique of every aspect of the lake management plan and gave it a report card. And I can send that to the commissioners. I've mentioned it. I've talked about it at symposiums before. But there's a myriad of reasons why the tribe walked away from it. But the bottom line is water quality is deteriorating, and we can't sit around and wait for another 10 years of business as usual. So we needed to take strident action, and that was our action. And
Thank
that's
you.
why we're here today.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm good. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Is that Jamie? Jamie,
Yes, it is.
yeah, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I would just like to add, it doesn't really have anything to do with the tribe and funding and all of that discussion, but since we're on that subject, I just wanted to provide some background on why the National Academy study was requested, and it was as a result of these triggers that Philip referred to being exceeded. And so in the lake management plan, it states that once triggers are exceeded, there needs to be further investigation as to the cause and sort of what kind of response should we have as a result of that. And so the National Academy review is essentially a result of, yes, we're exceeding these triggers. This is our more extensive review of the what and the why and what we do next.
Okay, thank you. So at this point,
I
I'm sorry, Leslie.
That's
go right
okay.
ahead.
I did speak to the interim director, Jess, of DEQ in Boise, and he said that stakeholders were not approached for funding because they do have the money to fund this. And I'm very much for the study. I am familiar with this. I started actually going to Basin Commission meetings before I was even sworn in here. And so I'm kind of excited to go forward. I'm disappointed that it might take 2 years. And hopefully they can, I don't know, somehow do their at-home Zoom meetings or something and speed things up. But I'm excited to go forward. And my lack of desire to put money towards this is because I want to see what the results are for the recommendations and implementations and maybe save money for that down the road. And when we may really have something that we need to fund forward. So the fact that the state has agreed to and not asked for funding, that's where I sit. I don't want to put money towards this. I want to wait and see if we can put money towards action instead of the study.
And may I just briefly comment, when we were approached by the state that they were intending to get a neutral third party to do some sort of review of the data, we said, well, you know, we can support that, but we really think you should go to EPA and tap into that $500 million. It's sitting there. Let's use some of that money. So I guess that was our initial take on this is the way to go about funding this NAS study. So it's kind of morphed since then, and you know, the tribe still supports the study moving forward. We do have concerns about 2 years of waiting, and understand that's phase one.
Right.
Then there might be 6-8 months of talking and deliberating with the state and EPA about what does phase 2 look like. Then writing a scope of work for that, and then another 18 months or 2 years to get that done. So understand the full scope of this NAS study could take 4 or 5 years. I don't know.
Well, and I'd like to sit down with you another time because we haven't seen each other all year because of all our meetings are canceled. But talk about some concurrent issues, some concurrent things that we can do while the study's going on, and maybe look at some of the innovations, look at some of the potential solutions in the future. So we can kind of do it the same. So then the study comes back and it's like, okay, well, we already have all these remedies. Which one is going to directly affect what the study results say?
That's interesting because when we originally developed the scope of work, there were 13 tasks. And one of the tasks that was vital and critical to the tribe was define all the innovative technologies that are out there that could possibly address this lake problem. So, you know, why should we want to wait 5 years for that when really that's kind of like the meat and potatoes of this thing?
So anyway, a couple things I do want to add. If we look at other cases, other locales where there's been a problem with mining waste, if you take Butte, Montana, the mining waste, if you will, or the first acknowledgement of it goes back to the 70s. It's just beginning to recover, and that's 4 decades later. Shift focus to the Silver Valley, it goes back to the same period of time, and now they're just beginning to recover. Now, obviously, there's been cleanup, but the recovery in real estate in Shoshone Valley Shoshone County, is largely due to the spillover from Kootenai, because our prices right now are so inflated. So when you reach a point, and with the lake, it's a little bit different, because you're not cleaning up just soil, you're trying to clean up something that has virtually never been done. If you reach the point of irreversibility, you're done. There's no way to recover that. So anyway, we can go on and on, but I'm going to be looking for a motion. I still advocate that we need to put our best foot forward. I think it's the right thing for the county to do, to allocate the $200,000. We've got the money. There's $5 million set aside for construction. We're taking $200,000. I think it's absolutely the right thing to do and sends the right message. So is there a motion, or should I make it?
Well, let me say, I have one more question.
Go right ahead.
I know I said I was
Oh, go ahead.
But I got one more question. Why, now, this has to be done right now, correct?
The study commences October 1st.
Right now.
Yes, sir.
Why wasn't this investigation and discussion done 6 months ago, or even 3 months ago?
Bureaucracy.
And I can speak to that. So, as Philip mentioned, kind of the initial idea was to request that EPA fund the study. We have been in negotiation with EPA and discussion with them. Our director and the governor's office have both contacted EPA and kind of requesting their assistance with funding the study. We've essentially gotten to the point where we can't wait for them any longer. They've essentially started at EPA Region 10. They felt that they couldn't justify using any of the settlement dollars for it because it wasn't listed as an action in the record of decision. They then said that they didn't feel like they had any other funding at the region, but perhaps headquarters would. And so there was a lot of really just kind of lots of kind of delays in terms of getting a definitive answer. And essentially, from the state's position, we just can't afford to wait any longer. We need to get the thing going. But that's essentially, we would have got a swift answer 6 months ago. We would have, I think, already been going.
I'll make the motion when we're done. Leslie, do you have anything else? Or?
No, just what I said, that the state agreed to do this, and that I think we should save our money for the implementation.
Okay, then I would move that we approve funding for Kootenai County's contribution to the NAS study of Coeur d'Alene Lake water quality in the amount of $200,000.
I will second.
Bill Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Duncan,
Nay.
Chairman Phillips.
Aye. And the allocation of $200,000 to come from the construction budget, which is a transfer of fund balance for the National Academy of Sciences study for Coeur d'Alene Lake, is hereby approved.
So I just want to make another statement. This is already tax dollars. This is already money that the state of Idahoans have put forth. This is already tax dollars. So now Kootenai County residents are being taxed twice. So I just want to.
Can you deny the impact to Kootenai County residents if this lake goes down?
I'm not saying that the study shouldn't happen. The study's already funded. The study's already funded. They're not saying the study's not going to happen unless we pitch money in. So that's where I'm coming from. I'm sorry if it wasn't more clear before that, but it's already funded. We're already engaged. We haven't walked away from the table. We still sit on the Basin Commission.
But we've never put up any money.
No,
Our contribution to the Basin Commission over time has been one individual representing the BOCC.
has the city of Coeur d'Alene put in money? Has the city of Harrison put in money? I mean,
We're the biggest recipient of the benefit. We represent the entire county. I'm less concerned about the cities than I am about the county. We're looking out for all the residents of this county. And I agree, it's taxpayer money, but it's money that's been built up over time. And we're not taxing anew for this. There was one comment. Russ, did you want to say something? You want to step up to the mic? Thank you, Phil. Go right ahead. Make it quick.
On learning about the Superfund site, Bill. That's been our little bastard child, you know. You guys need to.
Russ
I mean,
McLean?
Russ Mclean. Give her your address,
give-
please, Russ.
2360 East Hayden View Drive. But, you look at all these past boards, you look at the Water World people, you look at the North people, you got all these little Nazi at heart people. And they fight, and they fight, and they fight, and they've kind of left the tribe all on their own to try to manage this. It should have been done years ago, but there's always been a battle. No one's been willing to accept them and their ideas and their thoughts and sit down and really talk to them and see how we're going to work this out. And if you're not careful, if you go all water world on them, that was polite. The values are going to drop down the toilet. You can have a real mess on your hands. And I think funding this is right because now you can prod too to get it done. Because now you do have skin in the game. My money. So if all those values tank, then we really get to pay, don't we? Because you're going to get your money somewhere. So there's a lot of things to think about. And if you don't like it, thank the people who were here before you. You see, because they didn't do their job. They wanted to do their little Nazi crap, the past
Okay.
commissioners and all that.
Thank you.
Anyway.
Appreciate it. Okay, so we're going to move on now. All right. Thank you, everyone, for indulging us. Okay. So item number one, which is now item number two, professional services agreement for environmental engineering services with parametrics solid waste. Kathy Mayer, go right ahead, please.
Yes, Kathy Mayer for the record. As you mentioned, this is the professional services agreement with parametrics in Kootenai County. Solid waste is an annual contract. We just do a new agreement every year because usually our scope of services change. The parametrics has done the environmental leachate and gas systems and the water sampling for us for a number of years. The amount has just gone up minimally. It's over the last 5 years, it's gone up just a few $1,000s a year. So it's a very reasonable amount for the services.
Okay. Discussion, motion?
I move that we approve the professional services agreement for the environmental engineering services with parametrics.
I second the motion. Aye.
Aye.
Aye, and the motion is carried. By the way, I didn't get a chance to thank all our participants from the tribe, DEQ, Jamie, Dan, thank you everyone very much. They probably already hung up, but,
They're gone. They can watch the TV show.
okay. Kathy, again, now it's item number three, right?
No,
Janet-
it's just item two. We don't have to do that.
Okay,
Go ahead.
janitorial services agreement with Tesh Inc., solid waste, go ahead.
Yes, again, this is an agreement that is renewed every few years. It's with Tesh Services for janitorial services at the landfill, at the Ramsey and the Prairie transfer stations. It also has changed minimally as far as cost goes. They do all the cleaning weekly and sometimes twice a week cleaning at our sites.
Okay, motion.
I move that we approve the janitorial services agreement with Tesh Inc. and solid waste.
I second.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Moving forward, thank you, Kathy. Lease agreement, AAL-2020 for fuel, CDA Jet Center Airport. Stephen?
Yep, Stephen Kerr for the record. This is a lease agreement for CDA Jet Center for their what's called the fuel farm area. It's 3.6 acres. It's $39,291.12. This is in addition to their area they already lease.
Okay. Motion.
I move that we approve the lease agreement, AAL 2020, for the fuel for CDA Jet Center. Is that, would you say it's a fuel farm, Stephen?
It's a fuel farm area, and that's kind of what it's meant for, yes.
Okay, thanks.
I second the motion. Aye.
Aye.
Aye, and the motion is carried. Lease agreement, DACA, or DACA, not to be confused with something else. Okay, 67-5-20-88, Army Corps of Engineers Airport. Stephen again.
Yep, Stephen Kerr again for the record. This is a lease agreement that we do every year for the Army Corps of Engineers. They use the area on the airport's pit and the surrounding area to do maneuvers a few weekends a year, and it's a $13,000 per year, and it's very simple for them.
Okay. Motion.
I move that we approve the lease agreement DACA 67-5-20-88 with the Army Corps of Engineers to use the airport.
I'll second.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, and the motion is carried. Next item, termination of lease, AAL-2013-050. The party is Welch at the airport. Stephen?
Stephen Kierkegaard again. This is a termination of lease for the next item with Walsh. And the next item will be the new lease agreement.
Okay, so why don't you just move on to the,
So let's combine them.
yeah, just combine them. Go on to the next one, Stephen.
Sounds good. This is a new lease agreement. It'll be $2,714.61 per year at a rate of 0.208 cents per square foot, and it's a little over 13,000 square feet.
Okay.
All right.
Motion.
I move that we approve the termination of lease AAL 2013-050 with Walsh and approve ground lease AAL 2020-940 with Broderson.
I second the motion. Aye.
Aye.
Aye, and the motion is carried. Next item, amendment, memorandum of agreement with Federal Highway Administration and Idaho Transportation Department, which is ITD, Idaho State Historic Preservation Office, Kootenai County Historic Preservation Commission, Resource Management Office. Is it Cam? Kim or Jody?
Somebody's trying to get in.
Kim,
Is Kim on?
I actually don't think so. See if maybe if somebody's coming in.
Somebody's at the door.
Oh,
Called social distancing
No.
walk.
Okay, we're gonna have to, Jody, Kim, are you on? I guess we'll skip, huh?
Sean, are you able to get Kim on the phone? We'll skip.
I'm trying to call her right now.
Okay, we'll
Okay,
skip it.
we'll move on and we can,
Supposed to be on-
yeah, we'll move on and we can come back. Okay, so item 8 was moved to the end. Okay, next item, case management agreement, Kootenai Hospital District doing business as Kootenai Health, Board of Community Guardians, BOCC. Leanna,
Leanna Kaiser for the record. This is a case management agreement. We've updated the agreement with the Board of Community Guardian and Kootenai Health. You received in your packet a memo from David Levine, who's here in the audience if you have any questions. A couple of key changes for this agreement. The rate has increased from $36 an hour to $44 an hour. He stated in his memo it's been about 10 years since they've increased their rate. The term of this contract will be a 3-year term. That's a change. And then also, any termination notice will need to be 60 days as opposed to 30 days. Those are pretty much the key changes.
okay.
And then I just have a question for David. Do you feel that with this new change and increase that the existing budget can absorb that?
Yeah, it's about $4,500 a year,
Okay.
and based on where we are, we think we can, or you reimburse whatever portion they can afford to reimburse.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
He's okay. Just restate it quickly, David. Yeah, we need you on the mic.
We estimate the additional cost to be about $4,500 a year based on our current usage of case management. The wards do reimburse for the case management when they have the funds. Most of our wards are on Medicaid, they do not. Some of the wards do. So the $4,500 assumed no change in what reimbursement. So the answer is yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, David. Okay, motion.
Go ahead.
Okay. I move that we approve the case management agreement with Kootenai Hospital District, Kootenai Health, and the Board of Community Guardians.
I second the motion. Aye.
Aye.
Aye, and the motion is carried. Thank you, Leanna. Public Defender Administrator contract renewal with Mr. Nass, who administers the contract on behalf of our contract defense attorneys, BOCC. Leanna, again.
Yes, thank you. So this is with Scott Noss, and he is our conflict attorney administrator. We are just renewing this contract for the for fiscal year '21. So this will be effective October 1st, 2020 through September 30th, '21. No rate increase. There's only one minor change, and that was per Scott's recommendation, and he brought this forward to the board at your meeting with him, and that is to change the provision where he would do an evaluation of the conflict attorneys. It was originally stated semi-annually. We've changed it to be as needed. That's the only change.
Okay. Motion.
I move that we renew the contract for the Public Defender Administration contract with Mr. Ness and the Board of Commissioners.
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. Next item, CASA contract with Ms. Moss, BOCC. Leanna.
Yes, this is another contract that we renew annually. So this again will be from October 1st, 2020 through September 30th of '21. This is Alicia Moss with Moss Immigration Law for our CASA representation. And the term, as I stated, the fee is still $100,000 per year, no change there. The only change on the contract is her primary alternate has changed to Attorney Safa Riyad.
Okay. Motion.
Move that we approve the CASA contract with Moss.
I second the motion. Aye.
Aye.
Aye, and the motion is carried. Kim, are you on now?
It's actually Jody.
Oh. Okay, Jody, so we're going to back up to item, what was item 7, yeah, on our agenda. So it's the amendment for a memorandum of agreement. I already read it before. So have you got the agenda before?
Sure.
Go right ahead, Jody.
Sure. What it is that there was some work going to be done by ITD on Highway 41. There were 3 designated historic sites that needed the approval of the historic preservation for them to go forward with a Highway 41 project, and so the approval was given. This is just an extension of that project that you all approved previously. They just needed more time due to COVID.
Okay.
Did that make sense?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Motion?
Sure. I move that we approve the amendment for the memorandum of agreement with the Federal Highway Administration, ITD specifically, and the Idaho State Historic Preservation Office.
I second the motion. Aye.
It's okay. Aye.
Aye, and the motion is carried. Moving on to what is indicated as item 12, approve local option registration fee ballot question for the November 2020 general election, BOCC. Glenn, did you want to come forward, please?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. The request is to put the local option vehicle registration fee on the ballot for November 2023. It would be to fund 12 projects in Kootenai County. It would be for a 20-year term, and it would be a $50 addition, with 98.5% of those funds staying in Kootenai County.
Okay. Is the project list readily available on the website, or do you have to fish
Yes.
for it? Okay. Because I think that would be helpful for voters to be able to just go to.
Right. There'll be a lot of information coming out on it.
Okay.
And this is basically $50 per vehicle.
For eligible vehicles, so it's vehicles that are predominantly just motorcycles would be at half the price, and then vehicles for the typical household vehicle.
And all
Would not
we're-
involve commercial
All we're doing
vehicles.
with this is putting it on the ballot so we have people voting on a yes or no on it.
Yes,
Okay.
And
So
is it
yes
a
or no.
simple majority vote?
it's a simple majority vote.
And it's binding.
And
And
it's
binding?
binding.
Okay.
Yes.
Bill, you want to make the motion?
I will move. I forgot my glasses this morning. I'm sorry.
Fine.
No.
Thanks.
This is 12, right?
Yes.
I move that we approve the local option registration fee ballot question for the November 2020 general election and by the Board of Commissioners.
I'll second that.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, and the motion is carried to place the measure on the ballot. Thank you,
Thank you very
Glenn.
much.
Next item, change order number 5 for the RV Park Project, Stewart Construction. Sean Riley, speaking for the Fairgrounds and the BOCC.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Sean Riley for the record. This is a no-cost change order with Stewart Construction due to the delays we had in getting the CXT building, which is the concrete prefab shower and restroom facility. We're asking to give Stewart Contracting 28 more days. Basically, we were delayed 28 days getting the building, so it is now in place. Hopefully today we'll have water and electricity hooked up, and we still have surrounding sidewalk fencing, et cetera, that needs to get done. So we need to extend their contract date out by 28 days.
Okay, motion.
Right, I move that we approve change order number 5 at no cost to increase the time by 28 days for the RV Park project, and this is with Stewart Construction.
I second the motion. Aye.
Aye.
Aye, and the motion is carried. Item number 14, tax deed bid AIN 128085 from the party right. You don't have your glasses.
I'm going, am I being sued again? Thank you.
They don't let me carry my knife on me. All right, sealed bid from Kevin Wright. All right, and the amount is $300. My understanding that Mr. Wright is not co-located, his property is not co-located to the property in question, which has actually historically been used as a cemetery. And so I would recommend that we deny this purchase, this bid, and that we contact the Grange, which is co-located next to the thing, and see if they would be willing to take over the cemetery property.
So we can actually consider that a motion.
Okay.
Does that work, David?
Sure.
Okay.
I second that motion. Aye.
Aye.
Aye, the motion is carried. Next item, Resolution 2020-53, surplus vehicle for the assessor.
I think Reba?
Reba Gritness for the record. We're just asking that we can surplus this 2001 vehicle. It has a blown engine, and it would cost more. The shop's figuring $2,600 to rebuild the engine, and it was slated for replacement fiscal year 2021.
Okay. Motion.
I move that we approve Resolution 2020-53, surplusing a vehicle from the assessor's office.
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, and the motion is carried. Next item, resolution.
Thank you, Commissioners.
You're
Thank you.
welcome, Reba, thanks. Resolution 2020-54 supersedes Resolution 2004-89 for classification of records, Board of Community Guardians. Leanna.
Leanna Kaiser for the record again. So this is a request from the Board of Community Guardians to add another classification of records to the classification they had previously. They are in receipt of numerous explanation of benefits, which are EOBs, medical records, and they had requested to add this classification to their list for storage and destruction. So we've added the list, added this as a semi-permanent record so that they can, if they wish, transfer these onto an electronic medium for storage, and then destroy the paper record if they would like. They're not required to, but they can. So we're just amending their resolution, adding this classification.
Okay. Motion.
I move that we approve Resolution 2020-54, superseding Resolution 200489 for the classification of records regarding Board of Community Guardians.
I second the motion. Aye.
Aye.
Aye, and the motion carries. And our final item, which was item 8, which is fiscal year 21 Indigent Defense Financial Assistance Agreement. Our auditor, in behalf of our public defender, or actually it's our public defender, Ann Taylor, coming forward. Welcome, Ann.
I think it's going to be a tag team here.
Tag team.
I'm sure you have received the.
You got to get closer to the microphone, sorry.
Maybe
Yeah.
I can-
There you go.
Maybe I'm socially distanced. so I
Yes.
can take that off for now. I'm sure you all have received the Kootenai County Fiscal Year 2021 Indigent Defense Financial Assistance Agreement and reviewed the same. We're in a very strange circumstance here. I think that we need more time to consider this before we sign it. We're bound to follow the guidelines that they put down for us because we're a public defender's office, but there's a lot of problems with this. The formula grant, I'll just run through it really quick, and Dina's going to speak to part of it too. The formula grant, if I look at what we got last year for fiscal year 2020, it was $531,629. You can see that this year's is reduced to $467,000. And then there's a little caveat beside it that says there's a remaining $100,000 that exists from 2020. I'm giving you an example of what I think we need to explore. We do have money left, probably not the full $100,000 now. During our grant request process, we had multiple meetings with them, and we explained kind of what the rest of the money would be used for. We did this in July, and you have to get to October 1 on this money. But they've said, well, you had $100 or $100,000, so we're going to short you this year. And then they say, we'll give you a one-time award of $140,000. And then on page 2 of our grant, it talks about different potential uses, and then we have to be accountable for those uses. If I go into fiscal year 2021 with really less money than I went into fiscal year 2020, but I'm supposed to use this one-time award for specific purposes, I don't think I can. I'm very concerned about paying for case preparation like we usually do for experts, for records, for the kinds of things that we need to take care of, and also use the other money for a big project. So I think we need some clarification from the PDC on that. If you look at the workload grant, and that's a really big deal, is to get enough attorneys so that we're up to speed with where we think they should be. But if you look at page 2 of that, none of the numbers make sense to me. Dina can explain the process we went through. We worked on the grant, we submitted the grant, and then we went through 3 rewrites, I believe a telephone call and 2 Zoom meetings, and it just became very, very confusing. What they have listed for some of the positions, it's well lower than what we're paying our attorneys. And so Dina's going to speak to that, but I want to point out one other thing. They've given me another half-time position. We had a half-time attorney. I found a half-time attorney, so now apparently I'm going to have to ask that attorney if he wants to be full-time. We don't have enough office space for another attorney. I don't have sufficient parking for who we have now. We have to pay bar fees. We have to pay Westlaw fees. I need another assistant, but there's no money anywhere for that. And so I'm really concerned that we're getting boxed into a corner. We have to have their money. We absolutely have to. But the way it's outlined is problematic, and then we're also agreeing that they can get in and look at our records to see how we're spending the money. Dina has done a beautiful job setting up our programs to account for every dollar we spend and to categorize workload money versus formula grant money so that we can be accountable. So it's not a problem being completely transparent with this governmental agency. The problem is the amount of time and hours that it takes Dina to reply to this. And I'm just concerned about the direction of this, and I think we need some additional time. We're going to have to take the money, of course, but I think we need to make some response. And before I quit talking and have Dina speak to it, I want to talk a little bit about the process of where this came from. I sat in on the Zoom hearings or meetings for this. Of course, I couldn't participate, but I listened to the hearing that we were allowed to hear with a subcommittee, which were some select members of the Public Defense Commission that formed the grant approval subcommittee. They agreed to approve what the Public Defense Commission had set out as grant allocations for each county. They went into the full Public Defense Commission meeting a few minutes later. I attended that by Zoom as well. They sent like an Excel spreadsheet to the full members of the commission just minutes before they all approved it. I came out of that meeting not aware that our formula grant was going to be reduced by about $100,000 because that's what I had left. And so when I got the actual numbers, it was really surprising to me. So I just kind of want you guys to know how this just happened really fast without the full commission.
So what's your
knowing.
plan going forward, Ann?
My plan is that I think that the Board of Commissioners should ask for additional time to respond to this, and I think that we should write a letter outlining our concerns. We have to accept it, but I want us to go on record explaining when you tell us that you've allocated us $43,000 for an attorney, we're going to run out of money. Our attorneys make more than that, thankfully. So with that, I'll let.
Go ahead, Dina.
Well, I echo Ann's concerns. The data collection forms that we were given for this year's grant application were tremendously different than the prior year and tremendously different from the year before. So we started out with our original person that we liaised with for the commission. He left. We were assigned a new person. So there was a lot of confusion, thus the multiple meetings to try to nail down what the data collection form required. So we filled out the forms according to their direction. So the numbers that you see on page 2 for these attorneys represent 2020 budget at the outset of the budget, doesn't include the wage study, doesn't include estimated increases for 2021. So we're going to be underfunded for personnel because the data collection form had us fill in 2 iterations ago for employees based on a position number. So we have a problem with that. Also, the data collection form asked us to estimate and show how much money we've spent to date and what is left. But they're basing this on what we would have left at the end of the year, not what we have at the end now. For example, on page 1, the remaining workload says 534,227. Right now, we're at 537,000. We still have a month to go, and with new cases coming, there's no way we're going to have that. So we were told to give them actuals, and now they're calling that end-of-year surplus. So I'm not sure where the communications broke down or if this is passing through numerous hands and decision makers are not close enough to the actual numbers to understand what decisions they're rendering based on the timing of the information. So I don't think that this award represents the economic reality of Ann's needs for her department and proper salaries for the people that she has to pay. So I agree with Ann that if we can appeal to the PDC, if the board could appeal to the PDC to give us some more time so that we could paint a truer picture of the economic reality that's facing Ann for 2021. And at least before we sign on and say, yes, we'll agree to all these terms and conditions, that we say, this is not what we need. And that we'll accept any help that we can, but in order to fulfill the requirements that they are placing on the Public Defender's Office, that this funding as it sits is not enough.
So how much more time do you need?
I think that it's due the 31st.
Grab the microphone, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
This signed document is due the 31st of this month. I think it's going to take probably an additional week or 2 to get the letter. I will work with Dina to get the letter.
So mid-September?
Yeah.
Mid-September.
Comfortable with that?
Yes, I think
Okay.
we just need to request
Now,
an extension of the deadline. They may not give it to us, and, I mean, that
are
could
we
just.
going to ask for more money?
We are going to submit what we believe is what's needed.
Okay.
And they'll have to render a decision. We'll have to take whatever that they give us, but we want to be on record saying that this is not accurate and that the numbers and the data collection forms did not give them information to render a decision for funding a new year.
So Ann, do you want to draft it for us to sign?
Yes, I'm going to request Dina's help. but
Yeah,
yes,
go right ahead.
I definitely.
Okay.
All right? That's all.
That
I
it?
am requesting that the board reach out and ask for more time to consider this and the financial impact of this as far as meeting the principles that we're required to meet.
And we'll do that in the letter?
I think we need to do it before next week. This is due next week. And
So
I
phone
think,
call?
yeah, that's,
Do you want me to call Kathleen?
sure.
That would be extremely
Are you
helpful.
comfortable with it? Okay. All right.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Anything else? Let's see, do we need a motion here?
No.
Council, you don't think so?
So we're not
It's more of a
approving it.
process. Okay. Okay, got it. Public comment. Art?
I want to give this Art Collins, private citizen, Kootenai County. Take this
Basic.
off.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, well, it's a little hard to talk to them, then my glasses fog up. Okay,
No kidding.
I gave this to Phil Cinera because it's important, here, and I only got 2 copies, but whatever wherever you got it.
Okay, Bill doesn't have his glasses anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, go right ahead, Art.
It's just the correction, the study ain't gonna happen on October 1st, period. Ain't gonna happen. Okay, I got it from the horse's mouth, it's in writing, so you know that. This is gonna take a while to put together this 13-member commission. You must be kidding. This is gonna be something else. It's gonna take a while. I don't know
now-
when it's gonna happen.
Right
So
now, it's scheduled for the 1st.
it ain't gonna happen on the 1st. It is not scheduled. I got it from the horse's mouth right there.
Who's the horse?
So just so you know, I just wanna let you know.
Who's the horse?
It's in the letter.
Well,
Russell.
other people aren't looking
Okay,
at the letter.
well, I have to read it.
Okay, so the contract manager for the Office of Contracts and Grants,
It's Russell
Walker.
Walker, DC, he's the contract manager.
Okay, so what's your point?
The point is, it ain't gonna happen on the 1st of October. That's all I'm trying to tell you. I don't know when it's gonna happen, so don't settle on a date, just that needs to be corrected. It was in the paper, and it's information needs to be corrected, and I don't know how the press is gonna correct it, but I'm just saying is, folks, we gotta have the right kind of information.
Okay, so
that's all.
what I can do then, in fact, this afternoon, I'll get in touch with Dan.
Yeah, I just need a correction, because we really don't know. It might be November, December, it's in process, and the grant has not been awarded, period. Ain't been awarded.
Okay, so all right, so I'll confirm that.
Yeah, and the 13-member commission, that's gonna be all over the place, for people, just not here. That has not been put together either,
Where do you get the idea that it's a 13-member commission?
from the grant. I've got I've got the details of the grant.
Okay, so what I'll do then is I'll talk with Dan later, when we're done.
Well, I know, just so you know, it's just information, so.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. Anything else? Oh,
Folder?
your folder. Okay, so the time is 3:06 PM, meeting adjourned. Thank you.